Hello and welcome to another episode where I take vintage drive-in speakers, fix them up, clean them out, take care of the innards, rewire them, and make them work once more. On the table today is a really beautiful piece. This is a 1940s era Motiograph drive-in speaker, and it's different than any other speaker I've ever worked on before. For one thing, this is not aluminum. This is an old plastic called Bakelite. The speaker inside is going to be larger from what I've read. It's not going to be a 4-inch diameter, so I'll have to check inside to see if that works. And it's painted. Now, this would not bother me if this was an aluminum speaker. I would simply sand off the paint, prime it, and repaint it whatever color I chose. This time, however, I'm not feeling this paint, and since it's Bakelite, I can't really use any of my normal techniques on painting and cleaning. So we're going to go in a different route. And I also want to check the internals and see what a 60, 70, 80-year-old speaker looks like and the 60, 70, 80-year-old wiring. Tune in, stay tuned, and let's all find out together. Okay, I've got my tools. Let's crack this egg open. Now, the back of this Motiograph speaker seems to be held together with 2 Phillips head screws. Now, whether or not these Phillips head screws are original to the unit is beyond my knowledge. But, original or not, out they come. Now, Motiografs may have been the first true drive-in speakers to be mass-produced. And so this is going to be kind of a fun history thing. Alright. Open her up. Wow. Look at the size of that speaker. As I said, most times the speakers are 4 inches. This is a 5-inch one. And it's held together right here on the edge, looks like, with a couple of tiny hex nuts. Just going to put those right there, and one on the other side over here. These are loose enough I can just wiggle this out with my fingers. The wires look really, oops, come back here. You have a grill, and the speaker looks really nice. Just wanted to show I had to catch that hex nut before it went flying away. Potentiometer looks more modern than anything, so I suspect this has been restored at some point or another. The wire, of course, is rather short. This will have to be replaced. And this potentiometer knob is not original, of course. It's a plastic, like a modern plastic. We're going to get this off and replace it with another knob. And I also want to test the potentiometer to see if I have to replace that as well. But thankfully the speaker looks nice. Grill's going to need some cleaning. But the really part is I need to clean this Bakelite. And we're going to go through some steps on how to get this blue paint off, give this a polish, and give this a shine. Now, one of the ways we can make sure that this is actually Bakelite is to test it. Some people test Bakelite by using a hot needle and sticking it into the plastic compound here, and if they smell formaldehyde, then it's Bakelite. I don't like doing it that way. Here's a different way. I sprayed a little 409 cleaner on this cotton swab. See how white it is? All you need to do now is rub on the surface of the Bakelite. And if it is Bakelite, true Bakelite, you can see that the cotton swab now has a yellow tint to it. And that yellow tint indicates that there's a chemical change that confirms this is actually Bakelite plastic. So now that we know this is Bakelite, let's get to cleaning it. This is the back of the Motiograph speaker. And I've already taken the internals out and put them in bags. As you can see, this didn't come originally with blue paint. So I want to get this off. Now, normally I would spray this thing with aircraft remover and scrape off the colors, but this is not aluminum. This is Bakelite, and I really haven't worked with Bakelite before. So what I'm going to do instead is take this sandpaper and sand off as much of this as I can. I've got a few grits of sandpaper, and I'm just going to go to town on this. Once I get this down to where all the blue is gone, then I'm going to go to the next step. This is what the Motiograph speaker looks like now after I gave it a good sanding. And our next step is to take this Brasso and give it another rub. Now, I've seen many different YouTube videos where Brasso is used on Bakelite, and apparently it seems to do a great job. So if they're all right, I'm going to try it too. Now, I'm going to work this in, but I'm going to do this off camera. And I just want to be able to brush this in, and this will help get rid of some of the dust, leftover paint flakes, and sort of revitalize the Bakelite. This is the front of the Motiograph speaker, and as you can see, it's got that word Motiograph on the front in raised letters. And what I'm going to do now is use some of this liquid gold. I'm going to spray it in a shop towel, and I'm going to rub it into the chassis. And look at how beautiful that's turning out. Nice, deep brown shine. I like this. I need to tell a little story while I'm cleaning this. My Aunt Elaine, who is my father's sister, operated an antique store up in New Hampshire. Center Tuftonboro, to be precise, near Lake Winnipesaukee. Out near Wolfboro, Laconia area, that kind of place. And she would always have such wonderful things in her shop. Fiesta ware, Bakelite, china, crystal, primitives, all sorts of things. She operated that for a good 28, 29 years, I think. It ended up shutting down after the COVID-19 pandemic. But I still have so many great memories of going there as a kid and then later as an adult. Sometimes helping out my Aunt Elaine, moving stuff around, and saw her interact with all the customers. It was, and one of the great things about working on drive-in speakers like this, or working on any restoration project, is this connection you have. Not just taking an old object and making it stand out once more, but also being able to take something that's a part of your past or part of somebody's past, whether it's a family member or a business or a sports team or just a memory, and being able to bring that back once more. We don't get to go back in time that often. I don't seem to have acquired a TARDIS or a electrified phone booth or anything of that nature. But to be able to take an old object like this and sort of bring it back to its original luster, it feels good. It really does. My God, look at this shine. All right. I'm going to put this out, let it dry, and we're going to come back and install the innards. I want to show you this. This is actually raised lettering, Motiograph. And what's really beneficial for the way I got this off eBay for pretty much next to nothing. Because if you're looking for a Motiograph drive-in speaker, they're going to be very expensive. At least ones that haven't been damaged or, classic ones. But if you're looking for Motiograph speaker or Motiograph speaker or some other mistyping, you'll find it dirt cheap. Now, what I ended up doing was punching in drive-in speaker on eBay, and this came up. And it was listed as Motiograph, not Motiograph. So anyone searching for Motiograph would have gone right past it. But I got it, and now it's looking really good. Now we're going to start putting everything back together. And for the Motiograph, I was able to save the speaker and the speaker grill. The potentiometer was wrecked. So I found this, what I call new old stock. It's an old Claristat potentiometer, and I'm going to install that into the unit. And we're going to need a knob. And if the Motiograph is Bakelite, why not have a Bakelite knob to go with it? This would actually have fit on an old radio, but it has the same dimensional hole that would fit on a potentiometer shaft. It's got that little set screw here, and you know what? It'll look good. So I'm going to assemble everything, test it out before I install it into the system. That way, this was recommended to me by one of my viewers. That way I'm not trying to squeeze and finagle solder all over the place in a tight spot. I want to show you this. I've already rewired the speaker and the potentiometer. This is the original speaker. And I got some replacement brass hex nuts to hold this into place. This is the original nut, and these nuts are replacements. I also have a replacement potentiometer in here, and all I'm going to do right now is just do this with one hand, move this over here. I just want to make sure this is nice and tight. There we go. So I'm sure that's in tight. I'm going to use this replacement knob. And I'm going to slide that on here. I'm going to put that on in a little bit because I want to put the set screw in, but I want to take care of one thing at a time. Okay? To put this back together, I need to make sure that the handle is at 12 o'clock, and it is. And I also want to make sure the word Motiograph on the front of the speaker is at 12 o'clock, which is right here. See? Motiograph. Then, a little bit of finagling, and a little bit to make sure that everybody's in there nice and safe and snug. Put this together. Make sure all the wires are inside, because they're supposed to be. And line everything up. Now, here are the original screws, and I put this little rubber gasket right here just to provide a little bit of a cushion in case I ever need to repair this or reinstall anything. There we go. Nice and snug. Okay. And then we'll do that over here with this other one. In you go. As I said before, this has been a really fun restoration project. I mean, it's a combination restoration and salvage and cleanup and improvement. So I'm having a good time with that. And it's also a great way for me to honor the legacy of what my Aunt Elaine used to do with a real antique store in New Hampshire. And you don't really think about things like what you've grown up with and the memories that you have And sometimes those memories can disappear almost in a heartbeat. I say that because, we get older. People that we know sometimes that we've known all our lives get called to glory, or they move away, or something bad happens to them, or we just lose touch, we lose time. And restoration projects like these can be fun. It allows you to connect with your past and be creative at the same time. That's on nice and tight. Look at that. That is a beauty. This is a classic Motiograph drive-in speaker. It's been fully restored. And you know what? Give me a second. I'm going to plug it in and you can hear how fully restored it is. So what I did was I hooked up this wire to the back of this Bluetooth receiver. And it's hooked up to the Motiograph. Now all I need to do is play some of one of my old videos from YouTube so that I can't get a copyright strike on myself. I'm just going to turn this unit on and start this. Where I take vintage drive-in speakers, clean them up, and make them work once more. On the table today is a 1960s, 1970s era RCA style drive-in speaker with the floating knob. And there you have it. We got this bad boy working again. I really had a great time with this, and thank you so much for being part of my journey into restoring this classic Bakelite Motiograph drive-in speaker from the 1940s. Now, as you know, I don't have any sort of sponsorship program. I'm not sponsored by some VPN company or website design firm or a meal plan that sends you 27 meals for $5 a month. But I do put these speakers, when they're finished, on my Etsy site, which is chuckmillercreatives.etsy.com. And there you can see all the restored speakers I've worked on, as well as my photography and other projects. Thank you so much for being part of this, and please come back for our next episode.